The following film contains graphic violence and material that may not be suitable for younger viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
So the analogy that I think of, imperfect, is the expression about shooting fish in a barrel. And YouTube is the barrel, and the content creators are the fish. And so it's a place where this content is centralized, and essentially it's easy for us to find.
Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, as well as YouTube's draconian reactions to anything involving children's content. Together as one, this is a serious topic that's been passing rounds throughout YouTube in recent weeks. As a LEGO animator and toy collector who subscribed to commentary channels, I finally decided to weigh in with my concerns regarding my own potential fate, as well as the fate of creators that I care about. Now, I won't get into too many specific details, as plenty of other bigger channels such as Game Theory, Critcraft, and the mysterious Mr. Enter have provided their information on the background of the subject. In fact, you can actually watch the press conference from the FTC available on the ftc.gov website, link in the description below. Instead, I'm going to focus on my personal concerns with possible fallout and repercussions with these forthcoming changes, especially for YouTube content that's directly relevant to my own interests and fields. That is, of course, LEGO, animation, and toy-related channels. In this video, I'll cover some of my personal issues with YouTube's newest changes, mainly from focusing on topics that directly affect me, as well as my friends and fans in these communities. So first of all, let's discuss the purpose of my YouTube channel. At the time of this upload, my following was rather minuscule. That's because my YouTube channel originally served as a dumping ground for my demonstration videos of my electronic LEGO models. The main focus was my website and its articles, which is why my early YouTube videos were often under 2 minutes in length, and often just contained solid white backgrounds of my LEGO creations. I didn't exactly intend to build a following on YouTube. Rather, I wanted people to see my articles and photo sets on my homepage, and the embedded videos were simply there to demonstrate the electronic lights and sounds of my creations. That is, of course, until 2016, when I was hit with a spark of imagination to boldly go where no Von Brunk has gone before. Stop-motion LEGO animations. Way back in the early 2000s when the internet was in the Wild West stage, and 144p was essentially the standard of high definition, I actually always wanted to create stop-motion LEGO brick films, but alas, I lacked the necessary talent and resources. Anyway, a few years back I began gradually writing the concept for potential stop-motion LEGO animation based off of Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and anyone who follows me on Instagram and Twitter would know that I've been talking about this project non-stop throughout 2016 through 2018. Around the middle of 2017, I finally purchased Dragonframe software, which is the industry standard used in shows like Robot Chicken. I started tinkering with simple stop-motion LEGO animations, and during the rest of that year, I gradually animated various shots of footage for my LEGO Alice in Wonderland video. Sadly, throughout 2017 and 18, I got stuck with several issues in my personal life, mainly stemming from my late-night job at Goldman Sachs, which really hindered my ability to animate. Essentially, I spent all of 2018 either working, sleeping, or getting stuck on New York City transit trains, with very little time to chisel away at finishing the LEGO Alice in Wonderland project. Meanwhile, when I was not tirelessly working at my overnight job at the investment bank, I made a few ambitious yet simple LEGO animations of my famous Nintendo Transformers. By the time the new year rolled around, I was no longer at that job, and began gradually building up my YouTube channel more and expanding my audience. I did some simple demos and tutorials of my creations. But as far as animations went, I put the Alice in Wonderland project in a hiatus, and instead focused on smaller animations to build up my following. One thing in particular that I believe would set my animation style apart was my usage of interactive LEGO puppets, instead of just basic minifigure animations. You might remember my little promo for State of the YouTube podcast with Rusty Cage, Emperor Lemon, and Mumpky Jones, which made usage of this puppet animation. I expanded this style further with a more ambitious project featuring a Legend of Zelda cereal commercial, in which I got Turkey Tom and Rusty Cage to provide voices. At the time of this video, I have several ideas currently under construction, including a twisted, demented Simpsons parody, and hopefully a Pokemon parody featuring Gary Oak, Nidoking, and an epileptic seizure-shocked Porygon. This video in particular is a major point of concern. No, not because I fear I'll cause mass seizures amongst Japanese children, but rather because I could be fined $42,000 simply for the crime of making videos that children under the age of 13 might enjoy. Because machines are stupid, and apparently we need micromanagers like YouTube to babysit kids. I just want to make one thing clear. COPPA is not a new law, and I'm not advocating to get everyone to rush to their respective congresspeople to prevent this law from happening. In fact, it was passed 2 decades ago and with good intentions. So unlike SOPA or PIPA, which caused a major chaotic shitstorm of outrage on the internet back in 2012, COPPA is not something we can prevent. We can, however, hopefully raise more awareness to this issue and get YouTube to overturn their forthcoming changes, lest their entire website collapses. The Children's Online Privacy Protection Act was originally passed to prevent big companies from exploiting kids on the internet for profit. We can all agree with that, right? Well, see, the problem now is that in the wake of YouTube being fined $170 million for violating laws against collecting data from children under the age of 13, the logical course of action from YouTube is to take desperate cautionary steps to ensure no child is left behind. This is exactly why you'll notice in the newer YouTube uploads page, you're forced to check off whether or not your content is geared towards children under the age of 13. You know, completely ignoring the fact that YouTube itself explicitly states that you must be 13 years or older to join. Whatever. Anyway, now, if you do check off your video as being made for children under the age of 13, you'll lose 90% of your ad revenue, and all comments and end cards will be disabled. So, logically, you can just check off your video as not being for kids, right? Yeah, well, no. You see, regardless, your video can be manually reviewed, and if these clowns on the FTC decide that your video contains kids' content, based on their vague, confusing, distorted definition of kids' content, you can be fined thousands of dollars instead. And far worse than that, YouTube has engaged shoddy machine learning to seek and destroy videos they deem as for kids, based on those aforementioned vague criteria.
We're now required to ask you to mark all of your videos as made for kids or not. You know your videos and audience best. So we've launched a new audience setting that lets you tell us if your videos are made for kids or not. In addition to this setting, we'll use machine learning systems to help us find content that is clearly made for kids. But don't rely on our systems to set content for you. Like all automated systems, it's not perfect. If you don't set your audience, or if we detect error or abuse, we may set your audience for you.
In other words, despite repeatedly shoving down our throats all throughout the past year or so that we need to make sanitized, watered-down, family-friendly content to appease the advertisers, now, doing that exact same thing may in fact result in punitive action. You see, the thing is, other websites complied with COPPA, but not our friends at Team YouTube, and they were duly fined millions of dollars from the FTC for exploiting children's data. Ergo, the burden is now being passed on to you, and it's being passed on to me. According to these guidelines, anything which children may find interesting will be subject to total restrictions from advertisers, and may be subject to hefty fines. These include animations, video games, comic books, or in my case, toys. By the way, what you currently see here is an excerpt from the Federal Trade Commission's official survey to determine whether or not your online content is compliant with COPPA. This is the same standard that YouTube is holding to its creators. But where do you draw the lines? This is exactly how transformative creators such as critics and commentators will be under attack. Our friend Emperor Lemon creates a variety of bizarre videos. He began with YTPs, which although feature various intellectual properties as a base form, he's transformed them into new concepts through substantial editing. In recent years, however, Emperor Lemon has matured and shifted gears more towards biopics and documentaries, ranging from his strong hatred for Jimmy Kimmel to his love and admiration and praise towards SpongeBob SquarePants. You know, a cartoon show aired on a television network for children. Is Emperor Lemon a child? No, he is a grown man in his 20s who has taken footage from a children's cartoon and organized it into a lengthy video essay to explain how he truly believes this cartoon was one of the most vital pieces of pop culture of the millennial generation. The point he makes in his video is that SpongeBob can be viewed by a 7-year-old. SpongeBob can be viewed by a 14-year-old. SpongeBob can be viewed by a 24-year-old. SpongeBob can be viewed by a 34-year-old. Age does not make a difference in this context. What really matters is how the viewer interprets artwork, whether they mindlessly consume something or they thoroughly appreciate the creative and meaningful subtext. It's a shame that the FTC is out of touch and will not likely understand this. They see this yellow, absorbent, and porous cartoon character and just assume that any usage of him is automatically intended for kids. The vast list of reviewers and critics goes on and on. The mysterious Mr. Enter built his whole brand and persona on reviewing kids' content. Blame It on Jorge does critical and analytical content on cartoons and video games geared towards a general audience. The British bloke, I Hate Everything, has millions of subscribers who fancy his humorous and negative reviews against what he perceives as being worthy of ridicule, such as the Emoji Movie or direct-to-video animation knockoffs.
What is going on? What is this? Hello? Hello? Am I in purgatory? Is this even a movie? Is this even a fucking movie? What is this? What on earth am I looking at?
Our Canadian friend Your Movie Sucks does similar content. That is, of course, dissecting horrible pieces of media, which includes but isn't limited to children's content.
I don't know where this animation came from, but it's clearly reversed. It looks a lot better when the Zeds are going out of the mouth and not back into the mouth. Either way, this animation would fucking terrify me if I were a child. I know this because I am not a child and I'm already terrified.
While we're at it, let's talk about a different kind of animation review. Humor and obvious satire. Back in late 2018, a young man by the name of Mumkey Jones had his entire YouTube channel wrongfully terminated after a series of targeted attacks from YouTube against him. I'm not going to get into too much detail about it because there are plenty of other videos which discuss this subject better. However, Mumkey's YouTube fame expanded in recent years due to his humorous anime reviews, where he made in-depth analyses of such famous Japanese animations as Grade A Under A, Cory in the House, B-Movie, and The Bible. A quick side note I want to make is that these anime reviews you currently see here are not featured on Mumkey's YouTube channel since it was obviously terminated last year, but instead a lot of his fans have re-uploaded them under assorted accounts. However, as of 2019, his friend Simian Jimmy started making new similar anime reviews, this time of a Nickelodeon show. Yes, Nickelodeon as in Nick is Kids. Hey look, if you thought it was bad that Mumkey's channel was terminated last year for doing absolutely nothing wrong, imagine what happens when this Simian Jimmy guy gets fined several $1,000s for making a fake review about a fucking Nickelodeon comedy that was cancelled a decade ago.
The Naked Brothers Band is the most flagrant example of false advertising I've ever seen. When I was 8 years old, my uncle Alex invited me and my younger brother into his computer room for the first time ever so that he could show us something cool that would be fun to try out. He went on Google, typed in Naked Brothers, hit enter, and then this shit popped up.
Well, under FTC guidelines, uploading a video to riff on those absurd animated atrocities is the exact same thing, apparently, as uploading videos of preschool kids unboxing toys. How about that? And speaking of toy unboxing, right here is where the new restrictions really hit close to home. The Transformers is quite possibly one of my favorite and greatest fandoms of all time, including the toys and original movie and TV series. I personally have a vast collection myself of the original toys, in addition to a lot of the newer ones from recent years. You don't like the Transformers? Get fucked. Transformers fandom is rather ubiquitous on social media. Adult fans of the Transformers, be they toy collectors, comic book readers, cartoon watchers, cosplayers, have a strong presence on YouTube. A particular channel that I watch is run by a man named Rodimus Primal, who does thorough biopics of Transformers fandom, as well as toy reviews of newer releases. Just like Emperor Lemon, Rodimus Primal has spent a considerable amount of time talking about his favorite children's television show. Is it because he is under 13? No. Is it because his target audience is made up of children under the age of 13? No. Well, the subject matter may technically be for children under the age of 13, but what I'm getting at is that cartoon fans such as Rodimus Primal, Emperor Lemon, Mysterious Mr. Enter, Alpha J, etc. are all grown adults who at some point were small children under the age of 13, but are now currently giving more honest, mature retrospectives of their childhood entertainment, and through the lens of an adult with logical thought, as opposed to being parked in front of a TV on a Saturday morning decades ago. The people that enacted these draconian restrictions are out of touch with pop culture, and have blurred the lines between what's deliberate children's content versus what's content made for teenagers and adults, which happens to focus on media that was once made for kids. It's not the same thing. Look at it this way, a single, full, unchanged episode of Jim Henson's Muppet Babies without any additional commentary would be obviously intended for children under the age of 13. However, let's take for instance an episode of Kevin Perjure's Defunctland series, which has a story arc involving the inception and popularity of Jim Henson, which of course references the creation of Muppet Babies behind the scenes. This would of course not be geared towards small children. Look, okay, when I was 4 years old in 1988, I couldn't care less about how the hell the show was created. I just wanted to see Kermit the Frog and Fonzie make ham-fisted references to Star Wars. But now at age 35, I'm truly intrigued to hear about how Jim Henson and his team of puppeteers launched multiple famous television shows, like Muppet Babies and Fraggle Rock. When adults and teenagers on YouTube make references to children's media, the final outcome is not inherently children's media itself. The raw source material may have a deliberate young audience, But when you transform that media into a new concept, it transcends far beyond its original intended form and becomes something new and original. Here's another gray area which would fall under the crosshairs of the FTC: parody and remix.
You have to chase hero on the road.
Notice anything different about this clip you're watching? It's not the actual Lazy Town We Are #1 video, which can be seen on the actual Lazy Town Kids channel, a literal channel for kids. This video you're currently watching is a dark humor parody by Rusty Cage, who's removed every instance of Stefan Carl Stephenson to reflect his then recent death. Get it? Using pre-existing children's media to create bizarre parodies and mashups is nothing new. YTPs have existed since the early days of YouTube itself, and have their own unique subculture. Some people even take it a step further and create their own completely original videos using pop culture icons reworked into new forms of art, often varying in different degrees of quality. A sort of reoccurring theme in this style is to incorporate the Jolly Green Swamp Ogre Shrek into various humorous parodies. Believe it or not, I actually recently took a stab at doing this very same thing myself, and unfortunately got my YouTube channel scrutinized by Google. Yes, that's right. In October 2019, I created a simple stop-motion Lego Shrek animation, which contained a custom-built articulated Shrek puppet consuming real-life chicken nuggets in a strange and unusual fashion. Everything was fine for a while, until later in November during some routine search engine inspection, I noticed something rather peculiar. Typing in the literal title verbatim, Shrek eats 2,000 chicken nuggets, would yield absolutely zero Google results, and subsequently searching by direct title on YouTube itself would not bring up my video. I know this for a fact because as early as the day I initially uploaded the video, simply typing in the phrase Shrek chicken nuggets into Google or YouTube would immediately bring up my video. I did this frequently from multiple computers and browsers: Firefox, Chrome, desktop, laptop, mobile, with a VPN, without a VPN, incognito mode, and from my office computer at work which uses Windows 7. From the day the Shrek animation was uploaded until just recently, you could even simply type in Lego Shrek into Google and get my video as the primary result. And then I became both paranoid and concerned when one day at work I searched for the same search queries and got no results. And then I felt even more scared when I noticed typing in the full title and author showed no results for this video either. I typed in Shrek eats 2,000 chicken nuggets, Lego brick film animation by Baron Julius von Brunk.
0.0.
I mentioned this on Twitter, and one of my followers chimed in with some theories. The way we see it, although new changes to COPPA won't take effect until 2020, it seems to me as if they're already slowly rolling out new changes with their machine learning to target and secretly blacklist select content that's been deemed for kids. I mean, Shrek is a kid's character, Lego is a kid's toy company. Ergo, according to their shoddy algorithms, they must have put 2 and 2 together and thus put a big red flag on my Shrek video to pave the way for 2020. Well, for a while I went into full conspiratorial mode and truly felt there were some nefarious actions among Team YouTube, such as them potentially dog whistling to me that my channel was being scrutinized.
Destroy the child. Corrupt them all.
Lo and behold, I did further research and confirmed my suspicions that the new machine learning was in fact being rolled out prior to 2020. My little Shrek chicken nuggets video was an unfortunate victim. Also, real quick, I still periodically test out my search queries, and it seems as if my Shrek video now appears and disappears inconsistently from Google search results. So, yeah, the machine learning is definitely a thing, and, it's also kind of Doppler. Am I being paranoid?
Never!
Perhaps, but even smaller channels like mine can and will be neutralized by these ridiculous new changes. I'm not jumping the gun or being irrational. I may be a smaller content creator, but watching Mumpku Jones's channel with 300,000 plus subscribers getting terminated for doing nothing wrong has been very intimidating, and sort of a warning sign that I could be removed from the internet within seconds. Regardless of how many views my videos get, or how many views I don't get, it's completely irrelevant. What really matters is that I currently have a broad platform to exhibit my video content, and to take that away from me for no reason is just censorship, plain and simple. With that said, taking note of one of my random videos being discreetly unlisted from search results has put me on edge. If this is just the beginning, it's uncomfortable for me to imagine what happens next. And far beyond censorship through deplatforming is that whole big issue with being fined up at $42,000 from the FTC. In the last part of this video, I want to conclude this by tying this all together. If I'm a Lego builder who makes creepy Shrek puppets, why in the hell have I referenced so many random YouTubers? Well, do you recall the beginning when I talked about how it's been my goal for the past few years to complete a feature-length stop-motion animation of Alice in Wonderland? This is a video that I've gradually poured in countless hours of work in the recent years, and let's recap some of the YouTube content that I've touched on throughout this video you're watching. I discussed toys, animation, comedy and satire, and the reworking and reimagination of children's media into different concepts. This LEGO Alice in Wonderland video encompasses all of those things, and I plan on hopefully someday completing this project to serve as my grand and most iconic animation attached to my name. In a future dystopian YouTube landscape, it would completely and absolutely devastate me, to say the least, if all of my hard work would result in being deplatformed, blacklisted, and above all, with possible legal ramifications levied against me.
So what if it affects you? Go work at fucking KFC, bro.
I don't have all of the answers, and I don't know what's going to happen within the next few weeks. I can, however, say that I anticipate a considerable amount of backlash and vitriol from various YouTubers and their respective fans. What I would personally recommend is to follow the links I provided about speaking to the FTC and lawmakers, which were highlighted in Crit Craft's video about this whole fiasco. I'll admit that I'm personally confident that the overwhelming backlash of these controversial mandates will no doubt cause immediate reform to these outdated COPPA restrictions. Obviously, fining people thousands of dollars for uploading compilation of SpongeBob SquarePants memes is the worst case scenario and may be alarmist, but considering the rules and restrictions we've seen straight from the horse's mouth, who knows what the fuck they'll do to our channels? I believe the silver lining to this is that perhaps it could spawn a real legitimate mass exodus to a YouTube competitor that we've all been seeking for years. Either way, we need to make as much noise as possible. Remember, it's always been my plan since the early 2000s to create artistic and vibrant stop-motion LEGO animations, and although I've only been dabbling in LEGO brick film since the past few years, I don't want to see this exciting and expressive medium of mine to become completely quashed. It's bad enough that timeline algorithm changes on Facebook and Instagram have already fucked with my engagement towards my fans, and I sure as hell don't want to worry about my stop-motion LEGO animations being erased from the #1 video sharing platform on the web. If you made it this far, I thank you for your time, and I hope I can complete some excellent and creative stop-motion LEGO animations in the near future, without fear of being censored, deplatformed, or stuck with heavy financial penalties.
We've got to have money.
Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to get a ringside seat for updates on my various LEGO projects. And on Flickr is where you can see high-res images of my LEGO photography.